Good evening, everyone. You're watching L24 Nightly News. I'm your host, Miriam Zian, and here are your top stories. Coming up, Zionist occupation forces committed 11 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, killing 103 people and wounded 145 others. Next, Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf has discussed with U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken the developments in the Gaza Strip and the activation of the temporary measures issued by the International Court of Justice. And 4 people were killed while 9 others were injured as a result of 2 Zionist raids targeting towns of Suwana and Atshit in South Lebanon. Hello and welcome again to the program. Palestinian media sources in Gaza said the occupation forces committed 11 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, killing 103 people and wounded 145. This last assault brings the death toll since the beginning of the Zionist aggression on Gaza to more than 28,000 casualties. This comes as the occupation deadly onslaught against Gaza enters its 132nd day today, Thursday. The United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator Martin Griffiths warned that the Zionist military operations in Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip, could lead to a massacre, calling on the Zionist occupation not to continue to ignore the calls of the international community. Griffiths said that more than half of the population of Gaza are crowded in Rafah and see death approaching them. He added that they can barely find food, do not receive any medical care, have no place to sleep, and have no safe place at all. South Africa's permanent representative to the United Nations, Martinus van Schalkwyk, said that the occupation attack on Rafah means ignoring the decisions of the precautionary measures taken by the International Court of Justice against the occupation authority at the end of last January. In his speech at the UN Security Council, the South African diplomat stressed that announcing a broader attack in Rafah, which has been turned into a refugee camp, makes the displacement of the Palestinian people more permanent and threatens their almost completely destroyed livelihoods. The Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki warned of disastrous repercussions of the Zionist plan to attack Rafah. According to the Palestinian news agency, al-Maliki called for immediate action by the international community to stop the military escalation and end the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip, stressing the importance of urgent intervention to save innocent lives and provide the necessary humanitarian aid to those affected. This was at the conclusion of his visit or official visit to the German capital, Berlin, where he reviewed with his German counterpart, Annalena Baerbock, the repercussions of the Zionist military operation in the city of Rafah. Dr. Haytham Ahmed, doctor at Nasser Hospital, said that the medical staff and the displaced people inside the hospital are living in difficult conditions, pointing out that the occupation forces continue to target anyone who moves in the vicinity of the hospital.
We receive many cases of civilians who were shot, most of whom are from inside the hospital's building. We honestly live in fear and anxiety while trying to evacuate the displaced people from the hospital by sending a Palestinian detainee wearing a white uniform and a ski mask, informing the citizens that they should exit from the northern gate, but this person came back to the hospital after he was killed by the Israeli occupation forces. Honestly, we are witnessing scenes of horror, especially after waking up this morning on intense bombardment and fierce fighting in the northern part of the hospital. The situation is scary and the food is scarce.
The Hamas Islamic Resistance Movement warned of what it described as catastrophic humanitarian situation in which the displaced medical staff and wounded are exposed at a Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis as the occupation army is besieging it and completely cutting off its supplies. In a statement issued on Wednesday, Hamas indicated that the people who are in the hospital are lacking the basic necessities of life, including medicines and foodstuffs, pointing out to the ongoing direct shooting at the hospital and the deployment of snipers around it, which led to the death of a number of citizens sheltering inside. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed deep concern over the lack of food in Gaza, stating that nobody in the region has enough to eat. Addressing the UN Security Council on International Peace and Security, Guterres emphasized the destructive link between hunger and conflicts, urging adherence to international humanitarian law. Still in Gaza, where hungry and displaced Palestinians, mostly women and children, are lining up to get food to feed their families. This comes as the Zionist occupation continues its blockade of food and aid from entering into Gaza. Nabil Khazini has a report.
There are too many empty bowls waiting, but there is almost no food to fill them. Every day, these hungry people in Gaza, many of them children who didn't eat for days, line up in search for anything that could fill their empty stomachs. But their journey is arduous. The occupation prevents humanitarian aid from reaching the strip, and food stocks are dwindling too fast.
The situation here in Rafah is tragic, indescribable. Men don't have money to buy from the market. Even if we try to get tomatoes or potatoes or even pepper, we cannot. One doesn't have money to buy either.
Not only did the occupation bomb the homes of the civilian population in Gaza, but it also resorted to a new weapon, a collective punishment by imposing starvation and thirst on all residents of the Strip. But the bravery of Palestinians makes them resist to that. This man set up a small kiosk at the refugee camp in Rafah, where he lives now. He says his small business aims at keeping children busy and happy under the current situation.
Thank God, I have succeeded in removing fear from their hearts to some extent. Also, the displaced children in this area always come to buy this product, which is an alternative to the chips sold in the markets. They always feel happy, and now they walk around and come to buy these products.
The World Health Organization says the malnutrition increases the risk of children dying from diseases, especially in an environment lacking life-saving health services.
UN rapporteurs issued a joint statement affirming that preventing peaceful demonstrations supporting Gaza contradicts nations' commitment to prevent genocide. The statement emphasized the importance of allowing peaceful demonstrations globally to show support for Gaza amid the ongoing aggression. The rapporteurs also criticized excessive restrictions imposed by states on civil society. Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, received a phone call from the U.S. Secretary of State of Foreign Affairs, Antony Blinken. A statement from the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said talks comes within the framework of regular consultations that the two ministers agreed to maintain on major international and regional issues of common interest. The same source added that the discussions focused in particular on the developments in the situation in the Gaza Strip and on the diplomatic efforts made by Algeria in the Security Council with the aim of activating the temporary measures issued by the International Court of Justice. The Lebanese civil defense reported 4 people killed and 9 injured in 2 Zionist raids targeting towns of Shuana and Adshit in the south. The Zionist Air Force launched a series of raids on various areas, causing a large explosion in border regions, and the situation remains tense in the border areas of southern Lebanon. Iranian Oil Minister Jawad Oji said that a terrorist act of sabotage was behind the 2 explosions that occurred in the main gas pipeline network linking the north and the south of the country. The Iranian oil minister indicated in a statement to the state television that the 2 explosions caused a gas outage to villages near the damaged pipeline, denying that there is a gas outage in the major agglomerations. The 44th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union opened on Wednesday at the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, with the participation of Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf. A statement by the Algerian Foreign Ministry pointed out that the session is part of the preparations for the convening of the 37th regular session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union, scheduled for the 17th and 18th of February, under the slogan Educating Africa Adapted to the 21st Century. The same source indicated that the opening speeches of the Executive Council session highlighted many of the issues on the agenda related to promoting peace and stability and supporting development, integration, and complementarity in various fields at the level of the African continent. And Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf also emphasized the pivotal role of education in breaking the cycle of poverty and promoting development in Africa. Speaking at the Executive Council of the African Union, Attaf called for the concerted efforts to address the root causes of the continent's educational challenges.
Our delegation emphasized the need to focus our collective efforts on addressing the underlying issues contributing to the educational challenges on our continent, notably impact of wars and conflict, a significant barrier preventing over 40% of children in the Sahel region from accessing schools. Deficient infrastructure. Alarming statistics reveal a substantial shortage of over 1 million educational establishments. shortage of qualified teachers, acknowledging the pressing need for at least 17 million additional teachers across our continent.
The Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, also reaffirmed this Wednesday from Addis Ababa, Algeria's commitment to sharing its experience with African countries to promote the education sector. The Algerian diplomacy chief was speaking during the proceedings of the 44th session or ordinary session of the Executive Council of the African Union held in the Ethiopian capital. Let's take a listen.
Algeria is committed to sharing its experiences and expertise with the brotherly African countries to boost the field of education and teaching through, first, school and vocational training scholarships, as Algeria grants annually to its African brothers more than 2,000 scholarships and more than 500 vocational training scholarships. And Algeria is proud of contributing since its independence in the training of no less than 75,000 African students. Second, projects of building and rehabilitating schools, a mission entrusted to the Algerian Agency for International Cooperation, notably in the neighboring countries. Third and last, supporting the African Institute of Hydraulic and Energy Sciences and Climate Change, located in the Algerian city of Tlemcen.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sierra Leone, Mr. David John Francis, on the sidelines of his participation in the proceedings of the 44th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union on Wednesday in Addis Ababa. The meeting was dedicated to following up on the conclusions of the official visit to Algeria at the beginning of the year by the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Mr. Julius Maada Bio, and also to the decisions resulting from the talks he had with his brother, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, in favor of consolidating bilateral cooperation, strengthening relations, and pursuing bilateral coordination in international forum, notably at the Council of the UN Security, or the UN Security Council. The Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, held bilateral talks on Wednesday with his counterpart from the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Yusuf Maitama Togar, in Addis Ababa. A statement released by the Algerian Foreign Ministry explained that in addition to discussing the issues on the agenda of the Executive Council of the African Union, the two parties exchanged visions on developments in the situation in the Sahel-Saharan region and stressed the importance of promoting peace solutions or peaceful solutions in order to settle crises and conflicts. Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf also discussed with his counterpart from the Republic of South Sudan, James Pitia Morgan, ways to consolidate bilateral relations between Algeria and South Sudan. The meeting provided an opportunity to reaffirm Algeria's unwavering commitment to promoting security and bolstering stability in the Republic of South Sudan, according to a statement by the Algerian Foreign Ministry. Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf also reviewed with his Burundian counterpart Albert Chinyegro the current state of relations between Algeria and Burundi. The two sides discussed ways to improve bilateral cooperation in the context of getting ready for upcoming bilateral elections, according to a statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry. The same source also mentioned that the two sides also emphasized the significance of coordinating stances and offering support to one another in various international and regional fora. The head of the Algerian diplomacy, Ahmed Attaf, held bilateral talks with his Mauritanian counterpart, Mohamed Salim Ould Merzouk, on Wednesday morning in Addis Ababa before the Executive Council of the African Union's 44th regular session kicks off. According to a statement by the Algerian Foreign Ministry, the two sides conferred on a wide range of issues on the agenda of the Council, with an emphasis on interoperability. These discussions embodied the directives that emerged from the direct discussions between President Abdelmajid Tebboune and his counterpart Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani, particularly the phone conversation that brought them together a few days ago. Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf met with Libyan Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Political Affairs, Mohamed Issa, in Addis Ababa. The meeting aimed to review fraternal relations between the two countries and to discuss coordination on key issues within the African Union's agenda. The Algerian Union Bank inaugurated on Wednesday its new commercial agency in Ouadhibou, Mauritania, which aims to provide local service, reinforce trade, and promote dynamic between the two brotherly countries. The new agency was inaugurated by the chairman of the board of directors, Ali Qadri, with the presence of officials from both Algeria and Mauritania, with the aim of providing local services, strengthening trade, and promoting economic dynamics between the brotherly countries. At a time when relations between the United States and the Zionist entity are deteriorating, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are at odds over the major issues reshaping the U.S. and global political landscape, for most of which is the aid to Ukraine 8 months before a pivotal presidential election. Marab Al-Iwar has the report.
Joe Biden is facing a number of national and international challenges less than a year before the U.S. elections. The U.S. Senate approved fresh aid totaling $95.9 billion for Taiwan, Zionist entity, and Ukraine on Tuesday at Joe Biden's request. U.S. credibility would be jeopardized if any of the three key axes of the country's foreign policy collapsed. It will be necessary to offer the aid initiative to the House of Representatives, which is predominantly made up of Trump supporters who have already declared their intention to vote against the text. On the other hand, Donald Trump vowed to remove U.S. security from NATO allies if he were elected.
Just a few days ago, Trump gave an invitation to Putin to invade some of our NATO allies. He said if an ally didn't spend enough money on defense, he would encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want, end of quote. Can you imagine a former president of the United States saying that? The whole world heard it. The worst thing is he means it. No other president in our history has ever bowed down to a Russian dictator. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I never will. For God's sake, it's dumb, it's shameful, it's dangerous, it's un-American.
The scenario will drastically change if U.S. protection for NATO members in Europe is suspended. Between Biden and Trump, there are two opposing ideologies, one Atlanticist and the other which believes in America first and which rejects taking on the job of global law enforcement. Furthermore, given the Zionist aggression in Gaza, the U.S. is finding it difficult to enforce its instructions in Tel Aviv. And there has been a noticeable decline in the relationship between Netanyahu and Biden for a number of weeks. The outgoing president finds himself in a difficult situation 8 months before the presidential elections take place.
And for more international news, let's follow this report by Hosam Barkan.
Protesters in Quito staged a sit-in against alleged election rigging, with workers and supporters from various political parties blocking major highways. the demonstrators representing Baloch, Pashtun, and Hazara nationalist parties gathered in front of the district returning officer's office. This protest follows previous demonstrations in the week, leading to the city shutdown in Kira. Football enthusiasts in Accra, Ghana, took to the streets to voice their frustrations over the national team's unexpected exit from the Africa Cup of Nations. The premature departure of the Ghanaian team at the group stage prompted outrage, highlighting concerns about the state of football in the country. Hungary faces internal criticism after President János Áder granted a pardon to an individual involved in covering up sexual abuse in a children's home. This controversy poses a challenge to Prime Minister Viktor Orban's ruling party, known for its commitment to family and Christian values. The scandal led to the resignation of the president and former justice minister, with potential implications for Orban's credibility.
That's it for tonight's program. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and have a good night.